Hi everyone, it's Nicole and I'm here to share the books that I read in September of 2020. And this is something that I've been doing for a few years. I like to document all the books that I read in a year. I do it Project Lifestyle, and this time I'm doing it in a 12 by 12 album instead of a mini album, and that way I can put several years in one album. I found that the mini album took so much space. Now, the first thing I do before I start is I find some alphas that I can do my title, which is September Reads, and then depending on how many books I read, then I need to make extra cards. And this month I only had to do one extra card because I read 10 books in the month of September. That's probably my best month all year. And the second card, I just took some small letters and I did monthly wrap up. Now, another thing I do is I find a Project Life kit, and I only pick one kit per month. I take all the 3x4s out and I take all the 4x6, and I find cards that match my photos as well as I can. It doesn't have to be perfect as long as it's close. Then I take my 5-star rating little stamp set, and I've had so many people ask me where I got that, and I got it years ago, so I don't even remember which company that's from. But then I just stamp all the star rating on all the books, and then I take a marker and I color in the star rating. Then, like I said, every month I pick a different color, and I will punch out some 1.5 circles and some 2-inch viewfinders from our digital files, and I'll also cut out some labels and some arrows, and I have a 6x8 page protector, and I just keep them all in there. And I find that if I just do one color a month, then I spend maybe 10 minutes cutting everything out, and then eventually I'll have quite a few different colors that I can use just for my books that I read. Now, I've had somebody ask me on one of my other videos if I stopped using my brother's Scan and Cut because it didn't cut right. Not at all. If anything, it's a little bit of laziness, I guess. But another thing is, since I broke my hand, I'm using the cutting as therapy for my hands. So this actual cutting of all these different digital embellishment is actually good for my hand. But let's talk a little bit about the books that I read in the month of September. So the first book I read was Every Heart a Doorway. It's part of the Wayward Children series by Sean and McGuire. This is, I guess it's an adult series, and they're very small, about 184 pages, and it follows children that have gone into other fantasy worlds, and then they come back to our world and they don't adjust very well, and they're all sent to this woman in her house to, she tries to rehabilitate them. And everybody loves this series. I gave it 3.5 stars. It was okay. I didn't hate it, but it wasn't like a all-time favorite. The next book, though, The Duchess Deal, it's the part of the Girl Meets Duke series by Tessa Dare, and this is historical fiction romance, and it was so good. And this followed what was her name? Emma, and she goes to this duke in a wedding dress, and she says, "Are you going to pay me for this wedding dress that I, did for you, and now you're not marrying this girl? I want payment." And instead, she gets a proposal from the Duke, and it's just so cute. I absolutely loved it. Next book I read was The Girl in the Plane by Catherine Center, and this was a novella that followed one of the paramedics that responded to the call that happens in the first book, How to Walk Away. And so the story now is from her perspective. And it's a very short novella, but it was really good. A lot of people don't like the novellas that go along with these books. Now, the way I look at it, it's just another little snippet of the story, so I truly enjoy it. And as far as the embellishments, I I don't go look throughout my whole craft room. I just use the embellishments that I have within this iris container. And in this sticker book, there was a couple of clouds, and I thought it went well with the book, The Girl in the Plane. And like I said, anything that's a little extra story, I love that. I love that. And so I gave it 4 stars. Now, I kind of went out of order here, and I'm going to notice, there we go. The next book I read is Tweet Cute by Emma Lord, and I gave this one 4 stars. And this is about 2 teenagers, and both their families own restaurants, and they're kind of in charge of their Twitter account, and they end up having a Twitter war, and then one gets blamed for stealing the recipe of the other one. Then there's another app at school that they end up being pen pals on that, and they don't know who each other is, and it's kind of their love story and how it goes. Again, a lot of people were giving this 5 stars. I totally enjoy it. It just wasn't a 5-star read for me. It was a 4-star read. I really enjoyed the story. I'm starting to believe more and more that whether a book is a 5-star for you or, a 4-star, I totally believe that it has a lot to do about how you're feeling maybe when you're reading it, and it's just not touching the buttons that you need at that time. So the next book I read was The Governess Game. It's part of the Girl Meets Duke series by Tessa Dare. And again, if I love an author, I will read all of their books, or if I like a certain series, I will read them, all in a row. For example, the Girl Meets Duke series, I read the entire thing in the month of September. So this one follows a guy who was kind of a player, and he ends up having to take care of 2 kids, and then he hires a governess, Alex, to take care of them. And the kids are kind of a handful, but so is he, and it's just their relationship. And again, that was a 5-star for me. Now, the next book I read is the Life of Medieval Times of Kit Sweetly, and that's by Jamie Pacton. And this follows Kit Sweetly, and she is part of a medieval theater. And in that play, if you will, she is a wench, but what she wants to be is one of the knights. But, because they say that back in the time, knights were all boys and she cannot be a knight. And so she tries to, fight her way into being a knight. And then there's a whole bunch of other things that goes on in the background. And I really enjoyed the story. It was a 4-star read for me. And the reason that book even came on my radar is because last year I read Well Met, and I absolutely loved it. So that's why I wanted to read this one, and I enjoyed it. It was a 4-star. Now, the next book I read was The Wallflower Wager. It is also part of the Girl Meet Dude series by Tessa Dare, and this one follows Penelope, and all the girls, you all meet them in the first book. And now it's all part of their love story. And Penelope is quite quirky, and she saves all kinds of animals. Like, she has really weird animals that you don't normally keep as pets. And then all of a sudden she gets a new neighbor, and he does not want these animals because the only reason he bought that house was so that he could flip it and make a profit. And he is known for being, what is it? The Duke of Rune. And it's all about their story and their love story, and it was super cute. And that was another 5-star read for me. Now, there was supposed to be another book that was released, I think it was either March or April, but now I had pre-ordered it and they kind of gave me my money back because they said they don't know when this is going to be released. So I'm really sad about that. But anyway, so the next book I read was Cursed by Thomas Wheeler. This ended up being a 3.5 star for me. I enjoyed it. The main reason I read this is because this is also a movie or a series on Netflix. I can't remember if it's a movie or series. And it's a loose retelling of King Arthur. And I've enjoyed all other movies or books about that, so I thought, I think I might enjoy that. And it was okay. Like, I think I liked it more towards the end of the book, and that's why I gave it a 3.5 stars instead of a 3 star. And I have yet to watch the Netflix show of it, but I will very soon. So the next book I read, and I'm going to do these, I believe, out of order. This is 10 Tiny Breaths by K.A. Tucker. I'm going to do the entire embellishment of this, and then I'm going to go, hey, that wasn't the next book that I read. I should have done this book before Cursed. And it's not a big deal about the order that I actually, do the embellishments and everything, but I actually have the wrong book number on the book. And this is where I notice, after Curse, it should have been Inner Wake. So I kind of fixed those two, but then I noticed that, no, then it's not the other book. So I'm going to end up fixing that. So I'm going to do the embellishments for Inner Wake, and I think I'm going to do the journaling, and then I'll go back. But I think I'll talk about 10 Tiny Breaths first, and then I'll talk about Inner Wake, because that's actually a novella. So 10 Tiny Breaths is by K.A. Tucker. And this follows a girl, her name is Casey, and, one of the worst tragedies has happened to her. She has had great loss, and this is her journey on how to deal with it. Like, she ended up being like months and months and months in the hospital in rehabilitation, and then it's basically her and her sister, and this is sort of their story. Oh my goodness, K.A. Tucker, she is definitely one of my favorite authors. She can take any story and make you invested in all the characters, and I absolutely love her. Now, in the 10 Tiny Breaths, she meets a boy named Cole. And then the other book, In Her Wake, which is a novella, it's a story about Cole. And I will just leave it at that, because I don't want to give any spoilers. But phew, those were all the books that I read in September. I read 10 books. And as you can tell, I read a whole series, and then I started on this other series. And spoiler alert, I keep going with this series, the series by K.A. Tucker, in October, because I just love this series. So I kept reading all of the books. So I'm going to take a few seconds, and I'm going to put everything away. I will probably have a video up probably Tuesday of me cleaning up my craft room. I spent probably a few hours last weekend cleaning up my craft room. So what I've been doing this week is every time that I work on a project, and most of my projects, I have them in these iris containers. And then I'll also share something else that I bought last week to help me with my projects. And the first thing that I do, right away as soon as I'm done, is I put them in my album, because I know myself, and if I don't put those in the album right away and I just make a little pile of cards, next month those cards will still be in a little pile. So I know enough about myself that when I work on a project, I need to make it complete. I need to, go from point A to point Z in the time that I'm putting in making this project. And that way too, it's in the album, it's all complete. And that's also the reason why I haven't done my February reads or January reads for 2021 is I want to make sure that I get my 2020 album done first, and as soon as that's done, then I'll do 2 or 3 days in a row where I'll do my 2021 reads. So that will be coming up shortly. And that's it. That completes my September reads. And just a little heads up, just having a winter blues sales where everything is 50% off in my shop. So I want to thank you so much for watching. Bye.